All right guys, we got another Mustang with another draw. So now we're going to show you another way that you can test for draws in a vehicle. So let's get into it. All right guys, before you start watching the video, listen, hang around to the end. This thing, this video is set up to show you thermal imaging, and we're definitely going to show you thermal imaging in here and some different thermal imagers and how to use it for a draw test. But this thing turned into something way different than what we thought, something I'd never seen before. So definitely watch it to the end so you can see what the solution was for this thing. All right, let's get back to the video. So this is a 2005 Ford Mustang with a 4-liter in it. We've got it set up for a draw test. We've got all the doors open, we've got all of them latched, the trunk's open, it's latched. It's been sitting here overnight. And I do have a little bit different setup on it. So in previous videos, we did the meter across from the battery post to the battery cable. On this one, we do have an amp clamp around the battery cable. You can use the positive or the negative. This is just convenient for me to get to. We are using the Pico. I do need to get with ATS. Normally, we use ATS pretty much all the time. I don't know if they have this amp clamp. And I don't know if I'm sure I can make this one work with them, but we'll talk to them. For now, we're going to use this. The reason I'm using this is it's a 30 amp clamp that can go around a battery cable, as opposed to say a 600 amp clamp. I don't think I would get the resolution to get down to an amp or so and know that it's accurate to that level. So let's come in here. I've got the scope set up. Now initially we were at a little under 0.8 of an amp, and now we've popped up at some point since I hooked this up a few minutes ago. This is on 20 seconds per division. So if we bring this down, let's see if I can't zero this out. We'll get it close to zero. All right, that's close enough to zero, I guess. All right, and then we'll bring this down. So we're looking at what, 1.1 amps. That's a pretty big amp draw there. That's a lot. So, and I'm wondering why it popped up, because we haven't done anything. The only thing that we did was hook up and this doesn't bother anything. This is non-intrusive, which is one of the better ways of doing it. And look, it's even climbing right now. It's like when I touch this, it went up. I don't know if there's something with this amp clamp or not. I'm not. Yeah, and all I'm doing is moving this amp clamp around right here. Let's try that. There we go. There we go. Now we're back to where we were. I think that clamp wasn't all the way shut. Let's bring that down. There we go. That's where we were originally, which is about, 700 milliamps, a little over 700 milliamps. All right, cool. What's the next thing I did? I'm going to show you 3 different tools, but this is the one I went to just as a go-to. The one thing I like about this one, this is an infrared temperature, gun or temperature imager. Yep. And the reason I like this one is you can set it up so you got the picture on this side, so you know exactly what you're pointing at, and the infrared on this side. It does come in handy sometimes when you're looking around and you don't know what the camera's actually seeing. And all I did with this was I came out. It's, like I said, it sat overnight, which is kind of important because you need the car to be, everything else to be cold. And if you start this thing up and you let it run for a little bit, or you let it, even the key on and stuff, modules are going to come on. It might take them a while to get cold, especially when it's as hot as it is here right now. So it's a little cooler this morning. And all I did was take this and I just went around. So, I'm on the battery. We can see a little bit of something there, but nothing major. And I just honestly, really quickly just kind of went around the engine compartment. And I'm just looking for something that just pops out at me, right? We're looking for something that, and I'm not going to sit here and do it again for you. I went over everything in here. There's a module right here. So it looks like an engine module probably right there. Fuse box right here. Definitely hit that. I don't see anything in there. I went in the passenger side. I went all over. I went in the driver's side. I went all over around the driver's side. Instrument cluster and everything. Definitely the radio, because that's very common. I went in the trunk. Didn't find anything. Let me show you what I did find. And I'm just going to show you 3 different tools here. Kind of 2 different price points, but 3 tools. So, and again, we haven't opened anything up. We haven't disconnected anything. I haven't done any kind of probing on any fuses, nothing at this point. All I'm doing is looking for something hot. So again, we just kind of went over the radio. Sometimes, don't think you're going to go through this plastic into behind here. I mean, sometimes you might have to like get up under the dash and shoot this thing around. But immediately what I did see was, you can kind of see it there. You see the little red dot right over here, and that's hot. So I don't need to know what the temperature is. All I need to know is that's hot as compared to everything around it. And the good thing about this one is, if I turn my light on and put it down there, and I can see if I can turn the light down a little bit. All right, so on this, if I just put the light down here, I can see that that red dot is on the actual, is inside the fuse holder there. So there's a connector right there, and then there's a bunch of fuses inside here. And I can see, because I can really pinpoint this thing, I can see that it's inside the fuse, underneath that fuse cover, not inside that connector. Now, how is that helpful? Well, if I'm just sitting here like this, and I've got, well, let's use a different tool. Let's use this one. So this is InfiniRay, right? And they do have them for the older iPhones. They also have them for the USB-C. So this one, basically the same thing. Now you can see it's, got the red just because it's picking up this guy, right? So there's my hand, clearly picking up heat. But if we go in here, we're going to see the same thing. So you see the same exact situation, right? The only thing is, it's harder to tell exactly where it is, but you can definitely get in there and find that. It's not like it's the end of the world. And you'll know, when I tell you the price differences, you're going to be like, yeah, I could probably figure out what that is. All right, let me go ahead, and this is the top Don. This is a TC100, I'm sorry, TC001, I think. Yeah. And they've updated that to a TS001. We will put a link for that one. The
lens is bigger in the new one.
The lens is bigger in the new one, and we will put a link in that one in the description to AESWave. All right, so let's go ahead and get it fired up. So now we got it fired up. I go down there, and you can see that it's got a really nice picture. I think you can change the colors on this other one. If we play around with it, I think we can actually go where it'll show you. Well, yeah, there we go. There's the red and the, yeah, I like that better, right? So there's the two compared.
And those are about the same price point.
Yeah, these are the same price point. I want to say $299, something like that, $279, I think here.
We'll link it.
We'll link them all below. But you can see, either one, you can see it. And, they're both going to do the job for you. And they're going to pick it up from a distance. I mean, I'm way out here, you can see it. So it's just an easy way to just all of a sudden just go, bam, I'm on this, right? I know there's something going on there, there's something hot in there. Now, does that mean that that's where the problem is? No. That just means that that piece is getting hot. That could be a fuse, that could be a relay, that is being, power is being drawn through it, amperage is being drawn through it to power something else. So now what we got to do is get down there, find out what that actually is, and start testing it out. So let me get to it. Let me get the cover off of it, find out if it's a relay or if it's a fuse, whatever it is. And then actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave. Oh, let me give you the price point on this one. So you got the price points on that one. This is Snap-on, and I want to say this one $1,000, maybe $1,100. So quite a bit of price difference in them. And really the positive of this one is just that you can see it with the camera. So I'm gonna hook this one back up, and I'm gonna get that cover off of it. So I haven't pulled the cover off of that yet. I was actually sitting here thinking, let me play with these things a little bit, So I got this one out again, and here's something I noticed right off the bat. So when you're holding this thing, yeah, you can hold it like that. The camera's down here, but as I used the other one, the top Don, I noticed that on it I can actually flip it over. I mean, that's just a whole lot easier to hold, and the whole app flips over. And that could be iPhone, I don't know, maybe the iPhone won't let you do it, or maybe there's a way of making it do it. I did notice that, the different colors in here, some of them are actually really, really good, and a lot better than others for doing this. I'm not a real big fan of that one, and that one's okay. Let me show you the one that that one's okay. But see, it's got the greens and stuff in there, so it's a little difficult. This one's got a really good color on it. That one right there is really good. It pops out like crazy. So sometimes, you know, if you guys are using these, play around with the colors once you see a hot spot in something. Play around with the colors, and then that way, you know, you can use it for the next one. Go, okay, you know what? I like that one. It worked really good. Let me use that. Start off with that one maybe on the next car you get into. Got the cover off. The cover is actually hot also. So that thing is, and you can feel it, it's hot. And we can see that that relay is hot. So we need to figure out what that relay powers. And I'm not going to disconnect that relay at all. I do not want to disconnect it. I'm sure if I disconnect it, that the draw will go away. Not 100% sure of that, but pretty confident. I do not want to do that. I want to figure out, I'm going to go in, and then we're going to look up the this fuse box, see what that relay is, what's on those relay circuits. So let me get over to the, so, you know, we're still not done with this thermal imager, to be honest with you, because once we figure out what this powers, we're going to be able to hopefully, if they're accessible, go to those units and see if one of those, whatever this thing is, I'm sure it powers some kind of, you know, modules of some type, maybe, lighting or something, we're going to be able to pick up the heat off of that too. So we're going to try to take this thermal imager all the way to the end on this thing. So let's go ahead, let me get into a wiring diagram, let me get into the fuse box, you know, a diagram, find out what that relay is, and see what we're powering up. All right, so I've done some research on this thing. Come on in, let me show you what I found first. I went to the power and ground distribution, went to the fuses, fuse block, found this is our relay, which is here. It's our accessory delay relay. All right, so once we know that, I went over and I got the power and ground distribution diagram. So found the accessory delay relay, which is in our smart junction box. And what I was looking for was what turns it on and off. So we can see everything that's on it, right? So a lot of Windows stuff, door lock switches, just a bunch of Windows or radios on it. But theoretically, this thing shouldn't be on. You know, it should be off when we turn the key off and open a door. So then I'm like, okay, well, what turns this thing off? And it gets power in straight from a fuse. So if we follow that back, fuse 44 comes from C. And where was that coming out of? CCC, right here, right? So we keep going back across. From B, here's B, keep going back across. A, keep going back across. And basically this is straight power. So we're getting power from, that should have power all the time. So this has got power all the time, this has got power all the time. And this is going to be our out, going to our different components that this powers. And this is low current board. So this is what's activating, turning this relay on and off. And the only thing I can think is when this thing, you know, this has some type of a module that's going to communicate here to turn that relay off when a door opens, or, you know, that's my first thought. So I went in to do some research to try to find out, you know, how does this accessory delay relay function? What makes it work? Couldn't find anything. I went into ProDemand, went through all the different aspects of that with interior lighting, and I mean, it really didn't give me any theory and operation on the accessory delay relay. So I went in and I thought, okay, let's think about this. I did pull up the diagram for the relay, so we're going to look at that. So this basically is telling me all the pins of the relay, what they should have. And honestly, if I go here, this basically tells me that too. I mean, I know I've got power, I know I've got power, I know I should have power going out of 87, but, you know, and I know that 86 is going to be our control. So then I thought, okay, what do we need to do next? So I need to pull that relay out, which then, you know, I break the system open now. So now I'm interfering with stuff. Or do I need to look and see, is there something that would turn that relay on and off? My thought is that when a door opens, that relay should turn off. We've got most of our radio and our power windows on this. So let's think about this. We've got a key, we've got the car running, we turn the car off, does the radio stay on? On a modern vehicle, yeah, the radio stays on. We're sitting there in the car, but the radio's on, the key's off, because that accessory delay relay is still activated, still sending power out. But as soon as we open the door, the radio turns off. Same thing with the window. We're putting the power window down, power window's going down, we open the door, key's off, we open the door, the window stops because the power goes away to it. So I'm thinking that what I need to do now is get a scan tool on this thing and let's see if some module has got a power window, or not power window, a door switch input to it, that we can see if these door switches are actually functioning. So let's get a scan tool in. I got the scanner hooked up. I have not turned the key on. The key's sitting here. It's not been turned on. Nothing's happened with the doors or anything. Come on in and let's take a look. We've got our delayed accessory relay output status. The relay 1 says on. So it is keeping that on purpose. Something is keeping that on. The delayed accessory relay 2 output, which I don't even know where that is, I haven't looked at that yet, is off. The driver's door is closed, the passenger door is closed, so then I thought, okay, maybe because Clayton set this up, maybe he had the key on and latched the door, never opened the door, so maybe, you know, but I would think it would time out. But here's one thing that stuck out at me. I'm in the gem right now. I'm in the, I think it's called the generic electric module on this Ford. The ignition switch status says accessory. I'm sitting there with a key in my hand. So I'm thinking that thing should not be an accessory, and that could be our issue. So what I want to do now is, again, remember how we had this set up? We have a low amp clamp on there. So we can turn the key on and off. We can open the doors. We don't have to worry about popping a fuse in a meter or anything like that. So I'm going to open this door, and I'm going to see if this thing goes, obviously I want to see the door switch go open, and let's see if that accessory relay goes to off. Let's see. Let's just try it out and see. So, might not have pulled. Might have to pull that with a. Let's see if we can. Yeah, pull it with that. No, pull it. Put it in. All right. So now it says it's open, ajar. The relay still says on. So now let's latch it again. I would think that would turn that relay off, though, to be quite honest with you. All right, it's closed, and that relay still says on. So I'm still thinking that door opening should turn that relay off, or should, you know, at least command. What we know now is that door switch is working. This module seeing that door switch, that door open, and my thought is, if we've got the key in the off position and we're getting out of the vehicle, the radio's on, the windows will work, we open the door, all that will stop working. It should turn that relay off. That relay is still on. I'm thinking our issue here is going to be our ignition switch. Something's going on with this ignition switch. It's stuck in the accessory position. So, because I've got an amp clamp on there, I can see our draw right now. And I can see our draw went way up when I turned that, when I switched that, unlatched that door. I'm going to turn the key on, and we're just going to look at this key switch, ignition switch status, and I'm going to go ahead and put that on a graph here. Oh, I can't do that on a graph. Well, that's crazy. Can't put anything on a graph. All right, let's just see what it goes to. So I'm just going to take and turn it slowly. That's run. Yep. That was crank. I don't want to really hold it there because I don't want it to start, but let's just see if it'll. Oh, that just said off. Why did that say off when I went to crank? There's accessory. All right, I'm thinking this thing is not actually turning this thing all the way off. It's going from run. It goes to crank. Then it goes to off. When I go to crank, it says off. And then it just goes back to accessory. I'm thinking that's not correct. So, let me, I'm actually going to access this ignition switch. So let me access the ignition switch itself, and let's see if we can't, I'm going to pull a wiring diagram up on the ignition switch and see, you know, what our powers and grounds, or what our power is going into the ignition switch, what should have on there, different, you know, key positions. Let's do that, and let's let's come back to this in a minute. So we're gonna get access to that, and then we're gonna come back and watch this while I'm messing around with that and see. We might even pull the switch off and mess around there. Let me get to that, and we'll be right back. I'm not one to complain about automotive engineers. I really am not. They got a hard job. But in order to get those clamshells off, because there's one screw back here, I got this panel, I get you, that's no big deal. But to get this panel out of the way, I had to get this panel out of the way. To get this panel out of the way, I had to get this out of the way. And I had to get this panel out of the way, I had to get this out of the way, which means I had to get this out of the way. That's just a whole lot of stuff. You know, I remember back in the day where you could just pull that down. I know, I'm dating myself, but... And yeah, I could pull it and finagle it and all that kind of stuff, but I don't want to break anything. This is a 2005, it's almost a 20-year-old vehicle.
And we're doing a video.
So, here's our ignition switch. Now, I haven't gone over and looked at a wiring diagram or anything. As soon as I pop this off, I'm like, wow, this thing looks like, and for those of you Ford guys out there, and I think we've definitely done a video on this, this looks really like the newer, I think it's like Focuses and stuff, where this housing goes bad. And what those do is when you go to crank it, they won't crank. They just do nothing. This looks really, really similar to that. So before I get into wiring and all this kind of stuff, I'm gonna go ahead and these things are super easy to pop off. They just have a little catch over here. Of course I say that and then they won't pop off, watch. I got a catch there. Got a catch there. Look at that. And what I want to do is just get that down there where we can see it. All right. So I've got oh, look at the ignition switch status now. It went off. So when I pulled it out, it went to off. So now we got the door latched. That went to off. I bet you that this housing is the problem, and I can't give you the way of knowing that for sure. We can definitely I'm gonna get a flathead screwdriver and put it in here, but first thing I want to see is, let's go see what the amperage is doing. I'm having a tough time with the Pico guys, and for all you Pico guys out there, I'm gonna struggle bus with this thing. I did figure out that this thing goes to sleep really quick, which I do like because, we don't want the battery to go dead. But in order to make that thing not go to sleep, you got to hit the 0 button while you're turning it on, which it says right there. But I've also had to do a bunch of stuff. Every time the computer even goes to sleep for a second, it wants to lock us out and everything. So as far as Pico goes, we had to restart it. So I've got the battery settings on all these things. Just a little bit of a struggle bus with this thing. I'm definitely going to get with ATS and find out if they've got that amp clamp, just simply because I'm more comfortable with it. All right, so right now we're sitting at, looks like about 1.2. It says 1.2 to 1.6. I'm sure that thing's bouncing around a little bit. Let me see if I can't get this to 0. There's 0. Can somebody tell me if there's an easy way to set that to 0 without having to mess around with it? Would love that too. I need to do some training on this thing maybe. All right, 1.427 is our middle of that amperage reading. So what I want to do is I'm going to sit here and wait for just a few minutes, and let's see if this thing starts to drop down. I did do some, while I was doing research on the accessory delay relay, I did find out that it can take up to 45 minutes for this thing to drop down. It should be below 80 milliamps. We normally would think 50 milliamps, but the spec on this car is evidently 80 milliamps. So we're going to give this just a little bit. I'm going to see if it drops down. If it does, then we're going to start playing with that ignition switch to see if we can get that, figure out if it's the switch itself, so I'm not leaning towards, or if it's that housing, which I am leaning towards. So let's see what this thing does, and we'll be right back. So I got to thinking about this. I had the scanner interface module hooked up, so I went ahead and unplugged that. Duh. When I unplugged it, it dropped down, and here we are down here. Now we're at about 800, I think about 800 milliamps. We're going to see again. Let's pull this down now. Yeah, so 600 milliamps right now. So just wanted, throw that out there, that when you're doing this, don't leave the scanner module plugged in. So again, we're going to leave it sit now, but that definitely dropped down quite a bit. We're going to leave it sit now and see if it goes to sleep. I don't know what just happened. What in the world just happened? Standing over there and the wipers just all of a sudden go crazy. The ignition switch is sitting in the off position. Okay, I see you're videoing me and I'm taking, now, man, can we just get an easy one? Just an easy one every once in a while. Just something that's just like, just goes good. No issues. Dude. We're sitting over here waiting for this thing to go down, and the wipers, which were in the on position, which shouldn't matter at all with the key off, they were in the on position because pulling all that plastic and everything off, I bumped them up in the on position. But they just all of a sudden just came on. We're literally sitting over there. We're not doing anything with the car. Nobody's touching the car. They just came on. Amperage jumped way up, went up off, 2 amps or whatever, probably even higher than that, I would imagine. Probably went off the scale. And then pops back down. I paused it, so let me just start it again. So now we're sitting back down at 1.2. So we're gonna get into this ignition switch a little bit. I'm wondering if that ignition switch didn't, for some reason, just come on. So literally nobody's touching this car. Now I'm gonna hook this up, and one thing that I didn't point out earlier that we need to look at is the accessory delay relay. The whole point of turning the ignition switch, going to the off position, is what we were looking at was turning the accessory delay relay off. So that was on the screen, and I need to, we need to know when this thing is off. So now the accessory delay relay is on. All right, hang on, because it was off at one point, so hang on. I'll have to go back and look at, this says off now. And that's on. And that was definitely off a few minutes ago. All right. I'm gonna have to relook at the video to see if it was off when this thing popped off, but I know it was off at one point. Let's go. I don't care about the door locks and all that. I'm gonna show. Okay. Oh, you know why? Okay, guys. Get my mind around this. Let's think about this for a second. I know that was off, right? Okay. Standing over there, wipers came on. Now the ignition switch says off. But what has the module not seen? It hasn't seen the door open. The door's latched. So that ignition switch came on. Man, I wish we could watch it while we're doing. That ignition switch came on. Let's open the door, right? That's what's happened here. Here, I'll let you guys watch this. Here, let the cameraman hold it like that so you don't get a glare on it. Did it go to off? Yep. So that went to off when the door opened. All right, let's think about this logically, guys. Think about this logically. We had an ignition switch that was in the accessory position. We had an accessory delay relay that was stuck on, or that was on. We haven't really proven that if we unplug that, if the draw goes down, but we're confident of that. We're going to go past that at this point because I don't want to interfere with that. We access this, we pull this out, it goes to off, right? We open the door. I don't know why it's doing that. It goes to off. We open the door, the accessory delay relay was off. It was on initially. We walk away, we're letting this thing go to sleep. We think we got this thing figured out. We think it's the housing, at least I did. This is why you gotta be data driven. This is why you gotta prove things out. If I could have just jumped all over that housing and I would have been wrong because that housing didn't cause this to happen. We're standing over there, wipers come on. I mean, I'm glad that the wipers were in the on position because I never would have known that the ignition switch even came back on. I could have been chasing myself all over the place thinking, well, the accessory delay relay just came back on out of nowhere, right? So, man, thank you that those wipers were on. I hope you guys understand what I'm talking about. If those wipers would have been in the off position, then that ignition switch could have turned on, turned it back off again because we come back over here, it's off again, but the accessory delay relay would have been on. I would have been thinking something else is going on there. So that was a big help. So Now we know that that ignition switch went to the on position, then went off. Module didn't see the door open, so the accessory delay relay stayed on. So now let's get to this ignition switch a little bit. We're gonna watch. I wish we could graph that thing. We're gonna watch this. All right, so this is a good one, guys. This is a really good one. Can't get this light switch up out of the way. All right, I'm just gonna sit there and just, I don't know why it's going NA and all that right now, but let me just, and actually I'm gonna turn the wipers back on. All right, well, it's definitely not doing anything. I mean, that's exactly what it did before. And look, now we're off and on. I turned it on. I'm gonna turn those off so they don't. Just trying to feel in here to see if I can't get this thing to do something funky in this. It definitely feels weird right here in this off position, but I wish I could get it to do something right there. That would make me feel real good about life right now. All right, well, that's me turning it. So there I am I'm back to off, and it's stuck in accessory right now. That's back where I was in off. So now let me just wiggle it around here. I'm definitely in the off position right now, and that thing's an accessory. So now we need to know, is this an accessory, or is whatever that's monitoring, right, seeing accessory? So since we're stuck there, now let's go get a wiring diagram, and let's see which one of these wires is going to output on accessory. Let's do that. Guys, I got excited about this one. I got a little ahead of myself, but I want to show you what happened. I can't make it do it again, but I want to show you how I got there, and I'm going to explain what happened, and you're totally going to get it. I came over to the wiring diagram. I pulled up, this is the same wiring diagram that we've been in the whole time, which is the power distribution. I just came over and looked and seen what power, what circuit has got power on it with it in accessory. So this one's got an accessory in run, this one's in start, then we've got it in run, start, lock. So the only one I care about is this one, the black pink wire, right? All right, so the black pink wire should not have power when it's in the lock position, so the off position, right? So what I want to do is go see if that has power on it when it's in the off position. All right, come on, let me show you what I did. I got ahead of myself. So I got in here, and it was on accessory. Now it's on accessory now. Unfortunately, it's in accessory right now. If I put it to off, it's going to go to off every time now. It makes me sad, but I'll tell you what happened. I came over here, it was on accessory, okay? And I just want to see it have had power on it. So I just brought a test light over, just a standard everyday test light, and I got to the black and pink wire, and I touched it. Now it was an accessory here, right? And as soon as I touched it, it went to off. And I said, oh, okay. So I put a load on that, and it went to off. It was a very low load, but it went to off. So then I said, okay, let me go get a meter. I went and got the meter. I know I should have had you guys with me. I'm sorry. I went and got the meter, and I hooked the meter up to battery ground, brought it in, right? Right. So I had it, and what I did was I had it in accessory mode. Well, I had it in off, but it was showing accessory. All I had to do was turn it to accessory and turn it back off, and it would stay in accessory. And I took the meter and I touched it here, and it showed battery volts. It showed 13 volts because we have a maintainer on it, right? So with the meter, which is not putting any load on it, it showed me that I had voltage on that circuit, which is coming out of here. But as soon as I put a load on it, that power went away. It went to accessory, right? Or I'm sorry, it went to off. So I had the meter on it and touched the test light to it at the same time. Meter showed system voltage, 13 volts. touch the test light to it, boom, 0, and it went to off. I wish I could recreate this for you, but I think what happened was when I put the load through there a couple of times, it has kind of cleaned up the connection in here. So, oh, that door opened up. So, by putting the load on it in the off position, whatever connection it was making in there, it's broken that connection now, right? We know 100%, this is a really good one. I wish that I would have caught that, but this is 100% going to be this ignition switch. And we got really lucky in a couple things here. One, we used a thermal imager. We found the what the hot stuff was. We come in here, and I wish I would have used the thermal imager on this, to be honest with you. At that point, I was getting going on it. But we kind of found out where our issue started. We traced it back logically. We come to this point, and I'm thinking it's this housing, right? Even though the housings that do fail are usually in the crank position, this is what happens when you think, oh, I've worked on 100 of these things, and they've all gone bad in this way, right? This is exactly why you don't do that, why you still test it out. You could be right, but test it out. If I would have put a housing on this, I would have been wrong. Pulling this ignition switch off, it went to off, right? Playing around with it, going to accessory, we see the load doesn't go down, right? We start playing around with it. We see our delayed accessory relay goes off when the door's open, and this is actually showing off. Where we got super lucky and where we could have been really going down a rabbit hole was if those wipers weren't on, we would have been in a tough spot, because I would have walked back over here, seen off, and seen that delay relay on, and think something else has turned that on. So I'm happy that the wipers were on. At the moment I wasn't. It was kind of like, what the heck just happened? But think logically. And then I wish that I could show you guys this. I wish it would do it, but I just don't think it's going to do it anymore. Just because of I think we've cleaned that connection up in there now. We've broken it because we put a load on it. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. What happened with this? Oh, sorry?
Put the new one in.
Yeah, we're going to put the new one in. We're going to watch the amps. We're going to see what the draw is on it with the new one in here. We're going to mess around with the new one to be sure it's all good. So let's get a new one in here, and we'll be back in a second. We'll show you what that looks like. So we got the new ignition switch in it. It's been in it for a little while. I don't have it snapped into place, but it is in the off position. So let's walk over and take a look at what the amperage is. So I'm not real good with this Pico thing, and I will tell you that there must be some, I don't know if I'm doing it 100% right. I'm confident this does not have a draw. We're down at 39 milliamps now. But the thing that kind of throws me off a little bit is this was, this thing started to come down, and then it got stuck at like 500 and something milliamps, and it did not go down from that. And I'm like, this thing is definitely going to sleep. It's been, been an hour. So I took the clamp off, and this thing was, I turned it on. I did it where it wouldn't turn off. But I took the clamp off, turned everything off, turned it back on, re-zeroed it, hooked it back up, and we were here. So I don't know if this thing like locks itself, into a certain position or something over time. I don't know. So I'm going to talk to somebody about that I know will know, and see if he can help me out. But I know it doesn't have a draw. Let's walk inside. Let me get the thermal imager just so you guys can see. You guys can see the that there's no heat in this fuse box. So go ahead, get this thing fired up. There we go. So we see there's nothing on there. There's nothing, nothing's generating any heat. So we're good there. So, the ignition switch was the problem. So I'll tell you guys, this was a really, went into this thing thinking, thermal imager, show you guys how to do that, which we did, but turned into something super fun. We're a really unusual situation. I've never seen that before, where ignition switch literally would turn itself on. I mean, I know that was just a connection. It wasn't like turned itself on, but made the connection while the thing was just sitting there. So for me, it was a first. Glad we had the wipers on. I think this was a fantastic, fun one to learn from. So hope you guys liked it. If you did, give us a thumbs up, hit that notification bell, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell, and listen. If you're being contacted by anybody about you winning something from us, we will contact you directly. It will come from one of our emails, which will end in royaltyautoservice.com, and we're only going to ask for your address, and we will let you know before we give something away. A lot of people are calling the shop, saying, hey, we heard we won. Please don't fall for these scammers. Don't give them any of your information. Definitely don't give them any financial information. We're not going to ever ask for that. We're going to pay for the shipping. We're going to pay for everything. So we won't ask you for any money or anything up front. So just keep that in mind. Somehow I forgot the most important thing. See you in the next one.